Continuing my long-standing tradition of only reviewing the cool white version of Olight products on this channel, let's take a look at the Olight H1R in a cool white version, available at goinggear.com, who provided this for review. And yes, there's a neutral version available for people like me who prefer neutral or warmer tints. The Olight H1R Nova is a new headlamp by Olight that uses their dope AF magnetic USB charging system found in the S1R and S2R lights that I reviewed, making this the first time ever dope has been used to describe a USB charging system in a headlamp. You're like, this is a pretty dope review. The H1R is a rechargeable lithium-ion powered headlamp that can either use a non-rechargeable CR123A 3-volt battery or just the included 3.7-volt lithium-ion battery, of which I will do all of my testing with. Alright, so it comes in two tints. The LED is covered by an optic that helps give it a nice wide beam pattern, which sort of falls between light evenness between a headlamp with a reflector like my Fenix HL50 and a bare emitted headlamp like my Spark SG6. These sorts of honeycombed optics, like found on the Olight Nova, are my favorite type in a headlamp because of the middle ground compromise between more focused, reflector-based headlamps and super floody headlamps. The body is made from black anodized aluminum and has a magnetic tail cap for ease of charging and sticking the light to ferrous surfaces. It comes in a plastic package that includes a protected 650 mAh lithium-ion battery, a USB charging cable, a pocket clip if you want to use it without a headband, the instruction manual, and a velvet pouch for people who think velvet is a sign of wealth or just general fanciness. Charging time from a complete drain of the battery takes about an hour and 15 minutes, and by complete drain I mean after the light shuts off when doing my runtime tests. A lithium-ion battery, when fully depleted, should read between 2.5 to 3.5 volts. Any lower than 2.5 isn't considered safe. And of note, when you buy spare RCR123A batteries for this light, the rechargeable kind, and you want to use the charging feature, you'll need to buy the one that Olight makes specifically for this light. I found the 550 mAh battery included with the S1R works just fine and charges just fine in this light, but the H1R's 650 mAh battery will not run the Turbo S mode for any long period of time in the S1R. It cuts off. The charging cables are interchangeable between the S1, S2R, and this headlamp. Okay, output levels. My figures and Olight's are on the screen. First you get mooned, which is a little higher than Olight's baton series of light. Then low. Then medium. Then high. Then turbo. As you know, turbo is a burst mode that steps down into the highish-ish level territory after 3 minutes, because 600 lumens is an evil amount of brightness for a light this size because of all the heat that amount of light generates. Okay, the UI. It's very similar to the baton series. Insert the battery where the positive points toward the tail cap. Remember, most flashlights, it's the opposite way. Olight has good reverse polarity protection because I often put the battery in the other way and wonder why it doesn't turn on. In some flashlights, this can damage the circuitry and LED, like I did in that Spark SG3 and 5 headlamp review I did oh so many years ago. Press it once to turn it on. Pressing and holding while on will loop through low, mid, and high. The light has mode memory for all levels, so it comes on in the last mode you use, except for SOS. Turbo, Moon, and SOS all have shortcuts. This is handy because you can access them directly from off. Remember, this is a feature of lights with electronic switches. Flashlights and headlamps with electronic switches are always in a low voltage standby mode when they're not on. Lights with mechanical switches usually do not have shortcuts like this. So I prefer electronic switched lights. Most headlamps actually have electronic switches. Press and hold for 1 second to get to Moon. Then release. Otherwise, if you hold it too long, you'll go into lockout mode. Then you can press and hold to change modes. Once it loops once, Moonlight will be out of the loop and be mad because it's missing an inside flashlight joke. Okay. Then it's just low, mid, and high, low, mid, and high, low, mid, and high. To get to Moonlight, again, just access it via the shortcut. So to get to turbo at any time from on or off, double click. Turbo is saved into memory for 10 minutes after it's off. Then when you turn it back on and it's after 10 minutes, it just goes back to medium mode. After 10 minutes, if you want it back, just double click to get to SOS mode, because you're in a sticky situation and hope someone still knows how to use or decode Morse code. Triple click from off or on. To lock the light out, press and hold from off. It goes to moonlight first. Just keep pressing and holding, and it locks out. You'll know you're in lockout mode because when you turn it on, it won't stay on. It's like momentary. This is useful when transporting light in your tactical gear commando bag for your jungle missions. I prefer doing the mechanical lockout though, to avoid all standby drain when not in use. Just unscrew the tail cap a quarter of a turn. Turn it on and twist slightly until it stops coming out, or at least the light. Tighten to resume normal operation, just in case you're an idiot and you don't get obvious things. Run times. I did 4 this time because I like to torture people with short attention spans, which I guess they would have already stopped watching by now. I use the included battery for all of my tests. First is turbo. True to Olight's claim, turbo steps down 3 minutes in and continues on in a similar output to high from thereafter. It stays steady for a while. And as this runs, let me address Olight's step-down claims. A viewer said recently on one of my videos that he's buying an iCore light because it runs on turbo for 45 minutes. That is not true. Any light that employs some form of regulation being the key word to look for in the specs, or step-down, does not run continuously. Olight is just more transparent than other manufacturers about it on its turbo modes. Olight is one of the few makers that publish step-down specs. I'm not saying one light is better than the other, just that the way the FL1 standard used to measure run times is written, manufacturers don't have to spell out their turbo step-down times. I think for a full run time, according to FL1 standards, as long as it stays above 10% of its initial output, it's still considered the length of the runtime. So it steps down again at 1 hour and 29 minutes in, and the light cuts off at 1 hour and 38 minutes. Let's get high. High runs at a fairly steady, over 100 lumens for well over an hour. It's basically like turbo except without the burst of big brightness to begin with. So it runs slightly longer at 1 hour and 40 minutes, steps down and cuts off at 1 hour and 48 minutes. If you want to read, you'll probably want to use a much lower mode. 100 lumens is too much for a headlamp reading, in my opinion. Now, medium. Medium is a good mode for long run times, but still usable light for campsite, work duties, and medium distances if your eyes are adjusted, sort of. If I were hiking or camping, this would probably be the best compromise in brightness and runtime if you need a little bit brighter light. You get about 5 hours and 8 minutes of continuous light before it just shuts off. Now low. This is getting into reading territory again for me. It's still more than enough light for night adjusted eyes, more than enough to ruin your night vision if you look at it, or, so this is a good inside tent amount of light, or going to take a pee in the middle of the night amount of light. Although I could probably get by with lower than 15 lumens for all of that stuff. If you have decent eyes and don't need a lot of light, and an expert backpacker among the stars, 15 lumens is more than enough light for just about everything. This mode runs for over 24 hours of continuous light. It runs 26 hours and 25 minutes total. If you avoid high modes and stick to this and moon, that's enough light for more than a week of camping at a few hours of use a night. For good measure during the day, just unscrew the tail cap slightly. That way you eliminate parasitic drain and the possibility of accidentally turning the light on. And if you're out in the middle of nowhere for a week, then that's what I do. Of course, bring along another battery. Beam shots. I'll be comparing it to a few other lights in this headlamp class. Some brighter, some smaller. This is how they stack up side by side. I've done reviews for most of these lights over the years, so check those out if you get a few minutes. All lights are set to their maximum or burst mode to compare the highest modes they offer. They're all going to offer 100 lumen modes and somewhere in between, but this is maximum comparison. And I'll just put the weight above each one with batteries, just for an FYI for you ultralight people. First, the H1R, a nice, cool, wide beam pattern. Most of the light is focused in front of you with a nice taper off of brightness in the peripherals, courtesy of that honeycombed TIR optic. Cool. How about that H05 active I reviewed a few months ago? That light doesn't come close to the maximum output, plus it's not waterproof like this one is. It's made of plastic and uses AAA batteries. That said, those seem to be the most popular type of headlamps, and I honestly have no idea why. Go to REI and drop $70 on a plastic, barely waterproof black diamond. Sounds fun. Okay, back to the H1R for a second. Also a cool white light. How about the Fenix HL50 I reviewed quite a few years ago now? This is a reflector base light with a more neutral tint. That's when I upgraded to an iPhone 5S for my reviews. So hopefully they look better now. Back to the H1R for a second. Now to the ultra wide beam pattern of the Spark SG6. It has a neutral tint too, but no reflector or optic. It's basically a bare LED emitter behind a piece of glass. Some people prefer this ultra floody type light. I like optics like on the Nova, the H1R Nova, because it tends to focus the light where you need it most, meaning the light reaches a further distance in front of you because it focuses it more. The Spark light dissipates pretty quickly from your immediate area. Okay, H1R for a second. Now the first generation Armitech Tierra A1 Warm. I like warmer tints, but you should know that by now. The Olight has a less confusing UI though, so if you want a little bit simpler and also just as good a quality, go with the Olight. And we'll be here for a second. How about the S1R flashlight for good measure, because the H1R and the S1R use a similar battery and are a similar size. The H1R is not quite as bright on higher as the flashlight, the S1R. Is that confusing? It sounds confusing when I say it out loud. And we're back. Let's wrap it up a bit and do some endurance tests. Now, I don't like plastic AAA powered headlamps because they can break a lot easier. And, you can break off a plastic tab when you're changing your batteries. And they're rarely waterproof to be considered all-weather lights. I'm not sure why they're so popular, other than the fact maybe they just use alkaline batteries and people don't want to put a USB charging cable on it. I don't know. Aluminum single-cell lights are my favorite. This one is rated to IPX8 standards of waterproof and dustproofness. So let's drop in a glass of water while on and see if it endures with the exposed charging plate. Since this light is IPX rated and the charging area doesn't come with some sort of cover, we're just going to assume that it's fine. Cool, it is. And since you don't see me do many drop tests, mostly because I do all those off camera accidentally and the lights are all fine, let's drop it and throw it and see if it's fine. And again, we're going to wrap it up, I promise. The new charging system on Olights are nice. I prefer it to all other integrated charging ports because it's more robust than a micro USB port. Just like phones get flaky charging ports over the years, I'm just going to assume flashlights do too. I'm more of a type of dude who likes to charge his batteries separately because that's one less thing to go wrong with on a flashlight. The H1R Nova is a fine, compact, rechargeable headlamp that's plenty bright for general outdoor work and camp usage. It comes with everything you need in the package to be used as a headlamp or a right angle light. Oh, you know what? It doesn't come with the charging brick. You're going to need to use your phone's USB charging brick or your computer or, whatever. It is idiot-proof, though, and it's rugged. If you like it, buy it through my link below at goinggear.com and use the coupon code to save some money. Going Gear sent me this light for review and testing. And I almost forgot the dimensions. So let's look at those, the length, the weight, whatever, with and without a battery. If you like it, subscribe to my channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Leave a comment and watch some of my other videos. Doing reviews like this takes a lot of time, like 10 to 20 hours per review, and the wear and tear on my camera, when I leave it on for 20 hours to watch a flashlight dim. So all those things help get my videos suggested more and ranked higher. That's why I say this all the time. Anyway, thanks for watching.